I'll try to keep this brief so we can have uh, a lot of time for questions, see what's top of mind for you in terms of how this project maybe interacts with other initiatives you have. But let's get into it. So, an introduction to my research lab at Cal was founded in 2013, and we study three things somewhat related to one another. One is open source mastery learning, adaptive tutoring, K through 16 Creative Commons mastery tools that use AI. Another thread has been AI for course recommendations, so pathfinding. You could also think of this as AI augmented advising. We've been investigating that since we received two NSF grants in 2015 to look into that. And then, of course, the primary research thread relevant to today, which is AI for increasing credit mobility. And those two categories of course credit mobility and student mobility um, very neatly map on to the two features of the CourseWise platform that I'll preview. Um, so we've been up to applying AI to higher education since 2015, so definitely not new to the game. And the lab has put out several um, published works on uh, algorithm design for estimating the equivalency of courses uh, across institutions, validating this against existing articulation databases. And we've worked with a number of systems on this research, um, including the California Community College Chancellor's Office, including Cal State with April Gramo, and some colleagues out east as well. The idea of the estimation algorithmically is to use as many sources of data as possible to aid in the estimation of what courses are equivalent enough to be counted as course-to-course articulatable credit. And primarily what we're finding is course catalog information and existing articulations are mostly sufficient to do a good job at this. Earlier on, we found that enrollment histories helped compensate for what might be lacking in a catalog description. Of course, we all know some catalog descriptions are overly brief or out of date. There could be concept drift in a catalog description, so they're not perfect. But they empirically they do help as long as you take into account that every institution has its own kind of vernacular with how it talks about something. And what we're finding in work that's in submission right now, improving upon our early 2019 work doing algorithmic articulation, is that machine learning, AI, can detect these local dialects. And if you're cognizant, if the algorithm's cognizant of these dialects, it makes the process of finding equivalencies more accurate. Um, like I said, we've worked with a number of systems and institutions on early prototypes of this work, and I'm very pleased with the maturity of it now as it transitions from a lab research driven project to now a kind of production ready, practice oriented project that will continue to be informed by the research. Just to note, all of these collaborations that have involved sharing of data with the Cal Lab, those data are not being automatically repurposed for ATAIN. Um, Anyone who signs up and ends up participating in the pilot will go through a separate data usage agreement, and there'll be separate transfer of catalog descriptions and articulation data. The lab will not be sharing its data with ATAIN without any explicit permission to do so. Okay, so well, what is ATAIN and what is CourseWise? ATAIN is the initiative. It's all of our partners, AACC, APLU, SOVA, and my lab, and the technology that's being spun out of my lab. That technology is called CourseWise, and CourseWise is going to be um, a multi-tiered release of features intended and designed to help you do your jobs, um, um, and to best serve transfer students in both course credit mobility and student mobility. And this is the course credit mobility, the articulation part. And okay, what's the main goal of this version of the system? It's to strengthen articulation coverage among your network, right? Joining the CourseWise network, you now will get algorithmic recommendations about what courses are above the algorithm's threshold for articulation. So in this case, we have a sending school, Palmer College, a course from the sending school. Let's say it's on a transcript of a candidate transfer student, and now a destination school. In this case, it's UC Merced. And now the algorithm is surfacing that there's already an existing articulation. So the system will contain existing articulations, but it will also suggest courses um, in the case that there's not an existing articulation, or even if there is, they'll say, well, these are other options to consider. And here you see a test feature we're evaluating, which is the breakdown of learning objectives and which learning objectives are shared and are not shared with this candidate course. What you also see is these indications of other peer institutions that are already accepting this course. So one aspect of the platform that we're trying to be salient is that you're part of a community, right? It sounds like this collective you already have acknowledges that and is perhaps pioneering in that idea. But the idea when articulation officers and faculty are conducting this business, that you have peers that have looked at this, made this decision before, and there's some precedent. And so you are part of a kind of social network and being cognizant of that. Here you see a feature that will roll out in stage 2, which is evaluation of a transfer student's transcript, where it parses the transcript for the courses, identifies which courses already have an articulation in the books, and then which courses the algorithm believes are candidates for additional credit approval. The system will be logging your use of it and producing analytics that could be useful to leadership. So, for example, you'll be able to see how well articulated your institution is with respect to either the rest of a multi-segmental system or the rest of a group that's specified. So this particular group could be statistics could be generated there. What's your coverage to all the other institutions in that group? How often is the system detecting that a student had a course that was eligible for credit transfer but wasn't granted credit for that course? It may not be that there was an error. It could be a case that we're not covering, like the student didn't get a high enough grade on that course to be eligible. But this will surface statistics that you can look at year to year to see what the trends are. And it's using metrics that are in the process of being peer reviewed. They're from the research lab. Okay, wrapping up now. What does it mean to be part of ATAIN? It means getting access to this system that will have these technology affordances and recommendations, but it also means being part of a community of practice and being part of the feedback cycle to help us figure out how do we serve students better with AI? What can AI help us do that we weren't able to do at all before? There are some things it's going to help us do more efficiently, but are there ways that we can think about the transfer process that we were not able to think about without AI? And one of those things might be a kind of proactive articulation where if you're a receiving school, I guess all schools are receiving schools, but if you get a lot of transfer student applications, um, from out of state, you may want to consider, or we're thinking about allowing some kind of AI policy for accepting out of state credit, where you can audit an algorithmic policy for that acceptance, perhaps approve that for the coming year. When you receive applicants, you'll review to see what the AI approved articulation was, and then you can overrule it in the future. But this is just a way of thinking about the future to figure out how we can solve this problem of proactively accepting credit from any arbitrary institution. And manual proactive review of every catalog in America is not plausible. But maybe with AI, there's a way that we can make these pathways into California institutions something that students out of state can see. And as you know, often students want to know what will transfer before they actually apply. The final stage of this particular cohort of ATAIN, this inaugural cohort, will involve testing of a planning feature. So this is more the student mobility. So we know systems like Assist and other articulation stores are only part of the solution for students. In my view, they mainly serve the administration of articulations, but are not themselves the solution for students figuring out how to transfer, what they need to do to transfer. So a plan generation, an algorithmic plan generation is going to be part of what sits on top of this CourseWise articulation platform that knows what has articulated, knows the algorithmic suggestions for articulations, and knows destination school degree requirements, so it can help students navigate what courses to continue to take at their current school that will satisfy destination school requirements, and then when at the destination school, what to take.